Hello, everybody. It's Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Daniel, chapters 4 through 6, episode 201.
Yeah, you were not here for the 200th episode.
We didn't even note that it was the 200th episode.
Yeah, I don't think
the
we did.
200th episode, it was weird.
Yeah, I also think we were too busy dealing with
Problems.
Yeah.
Did you ever fix
I
that?
cut that out. Yeah.
Why is our live feed a black screen?
That's a great question.
I mean, we can just try restarting that page. It says that we're live, but
Yeah, you can refresh the page.
yeah, that should be okay there.
Because if we are publishing a black screen to the public, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be any options to adjust either. So
Yeah, I see that.
It seems.
Let me pull us up.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead,
now
check.
now we have to check
I can
to
do
see
that
if
too.
we're still here, if we're actually here, or if we're just.
YouTube's having probs, guys.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, we have an ad.
Oh, okay. It looks like we're fine, actually.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
That is. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, really weird.
In it's all of its 1p glory.
Yeah, what the hell, YouTube? Okay,
Holy cow.
so we're talking about Daniel.
Yeah,
I've got the KJV, the best version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version. We also have Robert Alter's translation with commentary of the Hebrew Bible.
And Eerdman's commentary on the Bible, as well as the Hermenia.
Yes, the Hermenia translation and commentary by J.J. Collins.
And we've got the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews, if we need it. And we've got the New King James Version, if we need it. And we got the Septuagint, if we need it.
We do. And we were talking about this 2 days ago after the show about the additions to Daniel. And it's like we do have them in here, but the versions that have them, I don't know, it just seemed kind of weird why it was separated the way that it was.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing the additions on Friday Apocryphal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be there, and you'd better be there.
Yeah, because we got some fun stuff to talk about.
If you're not there, we will find you.
And bring you.
We will force you to be there.
And now my arm has begun twitching.
Yeah.
What a good day.
Man, this is I got this. Oh,
They
you guys missed
missed
the intro. Oh man,
Oh,
that's
no.
probably.
Really? We did?
Well, that's probably that had something to do with that black screen.
Yeah. So YouTube just gave us a black screen, even though we were doing everything.
Yeah, we did do the intro. We did. And now we can do Daniel. Why not?
Wow.
So we're getting into chapter 4 here, and
It's in the recording, guys. I went back. We got the intro.
weird. Okay,
Was it just not live streamed?
maybe I guess.
Recorded by YouTube.
Right.
Weird.
So today we're going to be talking about a few very interesting things. We have, of course, Daniel in the Lion's Den, very famous story. I'm sure you've seen it in a whole bunch of kids' Bible books.
That's their background here.
Yep,
Take
there
a
it
look.
is. And we also have one of my personal favorites, the writing on the wall.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen the writing on the wall.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you guys later. I saw the writing on the wall.
Now, you didn't have to tell them that was a background. We could have just told them that we have lions in studio who are roaming around.
We could, yes. In fact, our
Like a video. We can have videos for our backgrounds.
we
you know?
can, yes.
Yep.
But no, instead we have been exposed.
Should find some loops sometime to throw in the background. See if people notice.
Have you seen any of the crazy shit that's going down in South Africa?
No.
No.
Oh, well, there's crazy shit that's been going down in South Africa. Like over 100 people are dead so far.
Oh, wait, maybe I did see something.
But
Was it in South Africa?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I don't know. I saw some stuff on Reddit.
Okay, well, the point being that at one point protesters, I guess, tore down the fencing for some wild game reserve, and there were just lions roaming around in the streets.
Wow.
They're smart, real smart.
Yeah. We could have done that. We could have gone down to the Milwaukee Zoo, picked ourselves up a lion.
Remember the Milwaukee Lion?
I kind of remember.
Yeah, like a couple of years ago. There was
Oh, we got.
Tomic. Thank you for the $5.
I think Jubilees influenced Muhammad and Islam in general.
I mean, to some extent, I'm sure. Maybe I don't know that much about I don't know Islamic history or theology
Ruben,
that
right,
much.
so-
Ruben did a video.
So,
on it.
according to the hadiths and stuff, Muhammad was illiterate. So, if Muhammad would have had some influence from that, it would have been stories that he was told from it.
And there were other people who probably had read it, and those stories probably had some translatability too.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of things in the Quran that are heavily paralleled with Apocrypha, and also extra biblical sources that aren't apocryphal, like the Talmud, right?
Yeah, I mean, because it stems from Judeo Christianity. It is definitely likely that it has maybe you can find the fingerprints of Jubilees in Muslim texts. I'm not sure on that.
Now,
But it wouldn't
they
surprise
would
me.
say that that's because they have the real book and you have the corrupted version in the Bible, right?
Yeah, I do hear that sometimes, yeah.
Right. And that is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. In fact, given the campaigns that existed to reformat and rewrite the Quran, it's pretty hard to even hazard a guess at what the original Quran would have looked like, given that they literally edited their manuscripts and burned other ones and threw other ones in the river when they weren't in line with the manuscripts.
Even destroying and re-editing the ones etched in stone.
Yeah, for Judeo-Christian scribal traditions, it's basically just they had a lot of ways of dealing with mistakes, including not. But either way, let's hop into some of this stuff.
Let's do this. Anything you want to say about chapter 4 before I start reading it?
So, discussion of Daniel 4 in the Masoretic text. It's actually 3:31 through 4:34 is complicated by the discrepancy between the Aramaic text and the Old Greek. The possibility has been raised that the Greek may preserve the older form of the story, and also that chapters 4 through 6 originally circulated as an independent collection.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that is quite possible. So scholars have long suspected that traditions about Nabonidus rather than Nebuchadnezzar underlie Daniel 4. The relevance of Nabonidus for the Daniel tradition became apparent in 1854 with the discovery of an inscription at Ur that referred to Nabonidus as king of Babylon and to Bel-Saraussar as the king's son. It was immediately apparent that the latter was the biblical Belshazzar, supposedly the son of Nebuchadnezzar, according to Daniel 5. Further cuneiform discoveries showed that Nabonidus had been absent from Babylon for several years, sojourning at Tema in the Arabian desert. Around the beginning of the 20th century, a number of scholars suggested that Daniel 4 contained a distorted recollection of this absence. Confirmation of the sojourn in Tema was provided by the polemical verse account of Nabonidus, published by Sidney Smith in 1924, and a synthetic treatment of the relevance of the cuneiform documents for Daniel was provided by von Soden in 1935. And then they list some further manuscripts. By far the most important discovery in this connection, however, was the so-called Prayer of Nabonidus from Qumran. This document purports to give the words of the prayer which Nabonidus, king of Babylon, the great king, prayed when he was stricken with an evil disease by the decree of God in Teman. The fragments that have survived do not include the words of a prayer, but contain a first-person account of the experience. Nabonidus was smitten for several years. While he prayed to idols, his son was forgiven, and a Jewish diviner told him to recount these things to give honor to the name of God. Another fragment refers to a disturbing dream of the king.
The prayer of Nabonidus is 8 verses long, roughly. And it goes, words of the prayer said by Nabonidus, king of Babylonia, the great king, when afflicted with an ulcer on command of the Most High God in Tema. I, Nabonidus, was afflicted with an evil ulcer for 7 years, and far from men I was driven until I prayed to the Most High God, and an exorcist pardoned my sins. He was a Jew from among the children of the exile of Judah, and said, recount this in writing to glorify and exalt the name of the Most High God. Then I wrote this. When I was afflicted for 7 years by the Most High God with an evil ulcer during my stay at Tema, I prayed to the gods of silver and gold, bronze and iron, wood, stone, and lime. It is interesting to notice that this line have praised the gods of silver, gold, bronze, and iron, wood, and stone returns in Daniel, just 22 lines below the story of the madness of Nebuchadnezzar. That was a comment. Because I thought and considered them gods, and the end is missing.
Yeah, so the relevance of this document to Daniel 4 is obvious. In both, a Babylonian king is afflicted for a period of 7 years, or literally times in Daniel. In both, a Jew interprets the situation. Apparently, the prayer of Nabonidus from Qumran, like Daniel, includes a dream that the king saw. Both documents have the king speak in the first person, although the extant fragments do not include Nabonidus's confession of the Most High God. There can be no doubt that this is the focus of the composition, as in Daniel 4. So that's a very interesting link there. And of course, some of the differences to note. The king's name is different, as is the nature of the affliction. The Jewish diviner is not named. The content of the dream in the prayer is not extant. Nonetheless, there is general consensus that the prayer of Nabonidus from Qumran, or 4Q prayer of Nabonidus, establishes the view that Daniel 4 is ultimately based on traditions about Nabonidus.
All right. So let's hop into it. Chapter 4, unless you have more to say.
No, I think that was actually pretty good.
And yeah, I pointed out to you that this commentary, which is by Ian Provan, and Eerdmans starts here.
Yeah.
So let's hop into it then. Nebuchadnezzar the king, unto all the people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth.
Yeah, and it should be noted that because, okay, so Collins in the Hermenia commentary is using the Masoretic text for his basis.
Mm.
So he's just noting something on these first few verses here. So these verses were assigned to the end of chapter 3 in the medieval chapter division of the Vulgate, which is generally attributed to the 13th century Archbishop Stephen Langton. This division was rightly rejected by Luther and Calvin, but has been retained in modern editions of the Masoretic text. The decision to place these verses at the end of a chapter may have been influenced by the fact that doxologies usually come at the end of tales, but this division of the material is not ancient and does not reflect any traditions from antiquity.
All right.
So it is divided a little bit differently. So, for example, what you just said, King Nebuchadnezzar.
Well, it's currently ancient.
Sure. Yeah, that is accurate. Yeah. So the thing you said, so King Nebuchadnezzar to all the people.
Mm.
Yeah. That is
people, nations, and languages that dwell on the earth.
Yeah, it seems like that is. He has it as verse 31 of chapter 3.
Yeah, and you had
Because the division.
mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generation to generation. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house, and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid, and the thoughts upon my bed and visions of my head troubled me. Therefore I made a decree to bring in all the wise men of Babylon before me, that they might make known unto me the interpretation of the dream. Then came in the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers, and I told the dream before them, but they did not make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But at the last Daniel came in before me, whose name was Belteshazzar.
Yes.
Yes. Now later on there's a Belshazzar, but this is Belteshazzar.
Yeah, so the king, of course, refers to and addresses Daniel with his Babylonian name, underscoring Daniel's Babylonian acculturation. The king asserts, in what is actually a false etymology, that the beginning of the name is derived from Bel, the Babylonian god. Yeah, like the name of my god.
You know, it's very odd. It's like when someone with a very distinct Chinese name comes to America and then they're like, yeah, my name's John now.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that this is like that.
Well, it looks like they misidentified the god of the Babylonians. So when they wrote it down to like give Daniel a Babylonian name, they just messed up.
According to the name of my God, and in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. And before him I told the dream, saying, O Belteshazzar, master of the magicians, because I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in thee, and no secret troubleth thee, tell me the visions of my dream that I have seen, and the interpretation thereof. Well, you really shouldn't judge someone solely based off of their name.
You really shouldn't. That's like judging a book by its cover, and I have heard that you shouldn't do that.
You know, Chris,
Hi.
he's just Christian through and through.
He is, yeah. It's right there in the name. Christian confirmed.
Yep. My full first name is Christopher.
It has Christ in it.
And it does.
Confirmed Christian.
If you look up the definition or like the meaning behind the name for Christopher, you get like, I don't know, piece of Christ, or like, I know, embodiment of Christ.
Yeah, you piece of Christ.
You piece of Christ.
Probably not that kind of piece. Thus were the visions of mine head in my bed. I saw, and behold,
Behold,
a tree in the midst of the earth, and the height thereof was great. The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair.
Oh, this is actually interesting. So if we remember, the cedar of Ezekiel 31:10 set its top among the clouds. The old Greek of Daniel 4:8. I don't think that's the verse than it is right now.
No.
But yeah, it's a few verses down. But at least in the Masoretic, it's verse 8. But yeah, it combines the imagery of Ezekiel and the Masoretic text of Daniel here. Quote, its top came close to heaven and its trunk to the clouds. The human attempt to scale heaven is a recurring biblical metaphor for hubris, beginning with the Tower of Babel, of course. The taunt of the day star, Halal ben Shakar, is applied to the king of Babylon in Isaiah 14. So, on just quick note on the Tower of Babel thing, it wasn't about trying to get up to heaven. It was about trying to get the gods to come down, because in Babylon, when they built ziggurats, they were thinking these are staircases so that the gods can come down here. Not that so you could go up, but so the gods can come down.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we can keep going.
The taunt of the day star? Do they mean like
I think
the morning star passage that occurs in there?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Isaiah 14, yep.
Yep. The leaves thereof were fair, and the fruit thereof much. Much fruit. So wow. And in it was meat for all. The beasts of the field had shadow under it, and the fowls of the heaven dwelt in the... Oh, there's a print error.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
what verse is that?
It says bows, but
Oh, okay.
there's a little bit of extra ink there that makes it look like Uggs.
Uggs.
Thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, nice rhyme, and behold, a watcher.
A watcher.
And a holy one came down from heaven. We got a watcher.
Maybe we should talk about that a little bit, shall we?
Yeah. Let's talk about the watchers.
Yeah, so this is obviously...
shout out to Enoch.
Yeah, of course, shout out to Enoch. Yeah, quite a few things to discuss here. So Alter notes that... okay, so he actually uses a holy emissary. Many modern interpreters read the noun here as watcher. The grounds for this understanding are not conclusive. It is at least as likely that it is an Aramaic cognate of the Hebrew. Where we have ir, which is translated as watcher, is an Aramaic cognate of the Hebrew tzir, emissary. Phonetically, the Hebrew consonant, I am not even going to try to say that, converts to the Aramaic ayin. And let's cover some of the stuff from Hermenia, because this is the stuff that J.J. Collins excels at. So Daniel 4 is the only passage in the Hebrew Bible where that noun, I'm guessing ir, is commonly understood to refer to a heavenly being. The meaning is assured by the juxtaposition with Holy One and the statement that he came down from heaven. The word is simply translated in... Sorry, it is simply transliterated in Theodotion. The Old Greek uses the single word agelos in place of watcher, so it just uses the single word agelos in place of watcher and Holy One. Both Aquila and Symmachus read... hold on, this is in Greek. I can read this one. Egregoros, wakeful one, or watcher, presumably from the Semitic root, wake up. Got a cough.
The awakened one.
Yeah, so of course we have talked about the watchers plenty of times.
Yeah.
So there's a section here about the watchers in Enoch, but we read that whole thing on stream, so we're good there.
For those of you who don't remember, the watchers in Enoch were like a specific group of angels.
It was like 200 angels.
Yes.
Yes, and they
some knowledge.
Yeah, so they came down to Earth and they mated with human women.
Big mistake.
Yeah, big mistake. Big no-no. And they gave them, hidden knowledge
Yes,
And
the
that
secret occult wisdom.
Yeah, and that really pissed off God. So
and they got, well, at least a number of them, I thought it was like 13 or so, got sentenced to being essentially bound up in the void until judgment.
Yep.
pretty much, yeah. Celestial prison.
Yep.
So in 1Q, I'm guessing this is the Genesis Apocryphon. The Watchers are associated with the Holy Ones and with the Nephilim, and with the Sons of Heaven in the context of the birth of Noah. The same context may underlie the reference in the fragmentary, I am not sure, but it's also a Qumran manuscript. And of course, the oldest non-biblical attestations are probably those in Enoch. Some biblical precedents for the notion of angelic beings as watchful ones. Wait, hold on. Yeah, as watchful ones, but with different terminology, have been proposed. The most noteworthy is Zechariah 4:10. So I don't know if you want to pull up Zechariah 4:10.
Zechariah. We haven't gone over Zechariah.
No, we haven't. But you know what? Actually, it says it here, which refers to 7 eyes of the Lord, which range through the whole earth. The Watchers, however, never have this function in Daniel or in the non-canonical literature. A more helpful biblical passage is found in Psalm 121:4. Behold, he neither slumbers nor sleeps, the guardian of Israel, with reference to Yahweh himself. The angels who keep watch in First Enoch share this divine characteristic, and the class of heavenly beings known as Watchers may have been named in this way.
Well, let's continue on, because we've just been introduced to a Watcher.
Yeah. And a holy one.
And a holy one, yes. He cried aloud and said thus, hew down the tree and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it and the fowls from his branches.
So it seems that this is the imperative is presumably addressed to other heavenly beings. Compare Isaiah 41, and also in Ezekiel 31:12, the tree is cut down by, quote, foreigners, the most terrible of nations.
Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with the band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth.
So, in a fetter of iron and bronze. So this line is extremely problematic. The basic problem arises from the switch from tree imagery to beast imagery. How the fetter of iron and bronze relates to either imagery is unclear. One line of interpretation assumes that the iron and bronze is applied to the stump of the tree. Attempts to provide an explanation for this procedure, however, have been unsatisfactory. The older suggestion of Van Langerk that the reference is to the bands of iron put round a tree to prevent it from cracking has been rejected because there is no evidence of such a custom in the ancient world. There is some evidence of a Mesopotamian custom of putting metal bands on trees. Remnants of a tree with bronze rings or bands were unearthed at Khorsabad at the entrance to the temple of Shamash. Bands of metal are shown around the trunk of a tree on cylinder seals and slabs from the palace of Ashurbanipal at Nimrud. The god Asher hovers over the tree, which has been taken to represent the tree of life. An inscription of Nebuchadnezzar II also refers to coating cedars with bronze, but here the reference is to beams rather than trees. The relevance of this evidence to Daniel, however, is very questionable, especially since Daniel speaks of a root rather than a stump. In short, the application of bond or fetter to the root of a tree that has been cut down is unintelligible. Another line of interpretation assumes that here, quote, the image passes to the reality. The king is to be bound with metal fetters. This view can claim support from the Old Greek in verse 14. Quote, it was imprisoned and was bound by them with bronze fetters and manacles. The imagery of the Greek text is also confused. A tree This is great. A tree eats grass with the beasts and is then imprisoned. The Greek does not mention a fetter in the initial description of the dream in verse 12, but the introduction of fetters in verse 14 suggests that there was such a reference in the Vorlage. One possible explanation is that the reference is to a shackle put on an animal to restrain the movement, in image that could then give rise to the imprisonment motif in the Old Greek. In this case, the fetter would represent an aspect of the bestial condition, which is imposed as punishment rather than stability or survival. The passage remains obscure, however, and it is likely that something has been lost from the original text.
Now, given that Daniel's from the 2nd century, Enoch would have been around by now, right? The Book of Enoch.
Parts of it at least.
Right.
I mean, not all of it, I don't think, but parts of it at least.
So we do have that bit in Enoch where they talk about metallurgy being one of the things that the rebellious angels taught human beings.
That was one of them, yeah.
And that might play into the bands of iron and brass here.
Maybe.
I forget if iron and brass were specifically called out within the lists of.
I also
things
don't
that were
remember.
taught.
But yeah, it was metallurgy was definitely part of that, but I don't remember any specifics if there were.
Mm-hmm. So there might have been, maybe some connection. Let his heart be changed from man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and let 7 times pass over him.
That's the 7 days. Yeah.
This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, forasmuch as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation, but thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the branches of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation, is thou, O king, that art grown and become strong. For thy greatness is grown, and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth.
So the king is the tree.
Yes. And whereas the king saw a watcher and a holy one coming down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with the band of iron and brass, in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king.
So I do want to point out here that while when you say let them be fed with the, or let them be wet with the dew of heaven, is that?
Well, let the stump of the tree.
No, I know, but that same language is used earlier.
Mm-hmm. And it's saying to leave the stump uncovered.
Well, it's the translation and interpretation from the Hermenia is to let it be fed, or let him be fed.
Mm.
So, because like with the dew of heaven, right? If we're talking about manna from heaven, that would have been food.
Well, with the tree, water is
right.
food.
It would definitely make sense there.
Yeah. So this is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. And whereas they commanded to leave the stump of the tree roots, thy kingdom shall be sure unto thee. After that thou shalt have known that the heavens do rule. Wherefore, O king, let my counsel be acceptable unto thee, and break off thy sins by righteousness, and thine iniquities by showing mercy to the poor, if it may be a lengthening of thy tranquility. All this came upon the king Nebuchadnezzar. At the end of 12 months he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. The king spake and said, Is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and the honor of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times shall pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was the thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar, and he was driven from men, and did eat grass as oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers, and his nails like birds' claws.
So until his hair grew long was the translation that I have. Similar changes are reported in the tale of Ahikar. My nails were grown long like the eagles. The physical change is more vivid in the Old Greek, where the hair is compared to the wings of eagles and the nails to those of a lion.
This reminds me, you're familiar with Gilgamesh.
Vaguely.
So, the story of...
I've read some stuff from the Gilgamesh epic.
I'm pretty sure that it was Enki, who was like this wild man out in the woods, right? And he was friends with all the animals, and then Gilgamesh sends a woman to him, and he sleeps with the woman, and then the animals don't recognize him anymore because the scent has changed, right? So that might be because, Gilgamesh, Babylon, that might be a callback. Of course, in Enki's case, if it was Enki, I'm pretty sure it was Enki, it was a good thing for him that he was out in the wild being wild man. But, here it seems like the opposite, right? This is not something that Nebuchadnezzar wants to be doing.
No.
And at the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven, and mine understanding returned to me. And I blessed the Most High, and I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. Also, it says that his hair grew long like eagle's feathers.
A lot of time passed.
Yeah, this is supposed to be 7 days.
Well, the thing is, so the understanding from he said 12 months later.
No. So after the interpretation, 12 months later, he's like walking along in his kingdom, and he's like, "Oh, this is so great!" And then he gets a reminder, and then an hour after the reminder, it happens to him.
Yeah, there are a lot of different interpretations. It looks like so. While there's 7 days, so Alter has it says so at the end of many days. This would be. He actually has the understanding as seasons. So this would be at the end of the 7 seasons or years when the king, through his purgatorial experience, comes to recognize the subservience to God. However, there is some other ones. Let's see. All right, so yeah, at the end of the appointed period.
Whoa.
The Old Greek specifies 7 years. According to the Lives of the Prophets 4:13, Daniel reduced the 7 years to 7 months. The Old Greek gives a more colorful account of the restoration with another dream and angelophany. So yeah, there are apparently lots of. So the actual term that's used there is just a general term for an amount of time. Mm-hmm. So figuring out what it is just it looks like it's beyond us at this point.
Well,
some 7 period time have passed.
Yes, 7 intervals of something.
This raises many questions.
Yes, it does.
One, if it's days, then how did his hair and nails get so long that fast? If it's weeks, then I mean, like, still, how does hair and nails get that long that fast?
I don't know.
Years.
Like,
if it's months,
yeah, okay.
If it's
nails can go
months,
pretty fast.
seasons, or years, who the hell is in charge of the kingdom at this point? Because if you have a king and he disappears for 7 years, you would figure that by then they would have someone else who's in charge, and he would no longer be the king.
Guys, this is just the Emperor's New Groove again, except he gets replaced by a goat. Who's
the Emperor's New Groove? That's yeah.
It's just that again. So like he's a goat for 7 years, and a goat is emperor or whatever. Yeah.
Boanthropy is a psychological disorder in which the sufferer believes he or she is a cow or ox. The most famous sufferer of this condition was King Nebuchadnezzar. You know,
that's interesting.
As far as I know, that's not in the current DSM.
I don't know. Do you have a copy of the DSM on you?
Nah, I got it at home.
Oh, okay.
You should just have those with you.
Yeah, because obviously
here's
where we talk about all the conditions.
See how useful this
I think that you just need to respect his kin type.
Oh, right. Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot about like
he is oxkin.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, Rube.
I like how we're just retroactively reading this stuff into this.
Yep. Let's continue on from here. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can stay his hand or say unto him, What doest thou? At the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. So this, I'm going to hazard a guess and say that it's ahistorical.
I mean, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is, I mean, as we talked about last week, this is a later text than its setting.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, in addition to that, just imagine King Nebuchadnezzar acting like an ox, grazing for years,
and
or
nobody
months,
stopped him or did
seasons.
anything
You know, you just gotta let him do his thing.
Is that the king?
Once he stops
Yeah, it's the
grazing.
king.
Yeah.
How long has he been doing that?
I like
At
the
least a few years
interpretation.
now.
I like the interpretation of the Emperor's New Groove. That's good. That's very good.
Yeah. Well, what a weird chapter.
Yeah, definitely a weird chapter. So this next one, there's one thing that I personally really want to talk about. So we can hop into that whenever. But if you guys are enjoying the stream so far, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I am sorry that I am messing with my hand. I have lost some feeling in my finger. I should check that out. I'm probably going to go to the clinic after
Yeah.
this.
How long has that been going on?
A few days now.
Few days now, and it just started out of nowhere.
Yeah, I just woke up and like half of my pinky was numb.
Oh man, so you probably like rolled over it or something in your sleep.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's but now like I've found like a spot that like if I like push down on that spot, I get like the pins and needles feeling. So my best guess is that it's an ulnar nerve pinch, but I am not a doctor, and that is my best guess. But I'm going to go get it checked out.
We can always remove it.
We could. You're right.
Yep.
That would remove the pain from it.
Yep.
As I wouldn't feel that finger anymore.
Or
Don't feel it anyway, so whatever.
Right.
so, hey, if you're enjoying the stream, share with your friends, family, and neighbors, etc. Lawrence, why don't you read off something about this chapter while I go to the bathroom?
All right. So on to chapter 5 here. So as in chapter 4, the Old Greek text is markedly different from that of the Masoretic. In this case, however, the Greek is the shorter text and lacks the expansionist characteristic of the Old Greek chapter 4. And they note they kind of go over the Aramaic text. The Old Greek is preceded by a preface, which has no equivalent in the Aramaic or in Theodotian, and which states that the main points. Actually, hold on. It states the main points of the story. That's something you don't see very often.
Yeah, sometimes I question what the point of the reading was.
Right. So the most likely reason for its inclusion is that the Old Greek translation did not include the mysterious words which are given in the preface as main, phares, and thekel, but simply translated them at 517. The order of and we'll obviously get to what those are when we get there. The order of the Aramaic words differs from that implied in the Old Greek. The preface has distinctive features in the occasion of the feast and the number in attendance. These distinctive features show that the preface is not merely a summary of the story as it appears either in the Masoretic or in the Old Greek, but reflects an independent form of the tradition. It is doubtful whether the brief account of the preface, which contains no mention of Daniel and no account of the interpretation of the writing, ever constituted a full independent story. In its extant form, it is merely a supplement to the longer story that follows, and it may itself be an abbreviation of another form of the story. So, Daniel, what an interesting book, textually speaking. Luckily, we do have a Greek Septuagint. So if we ever really need to check the actual Greek, it's right there in front of us. Once again, thank you, Landon, for the Septuagint, for the Septuagints, plural. One is at home. I practice my Greek. And now it seems that someone has returned, and he's going to take some of these commentaries, perhaps.
Return of the Jedi.
You what?
Better movie than Return of the King.
You know what? If you say so.
Yep, I do.
Okay. Yeah, so here are a bunch of commentaries. And yeah, looks like we're going to have Belshazzar here. So not Daniel's Babylonian name, but the other guy.
Not Belteshazzar, but Belshazzar.
Yes. So here's a bunch of stuff. Man, I love all this Daniel stuff. It's kind of cool.
Right. So,
I mean, I can start reading, and then we can.
But I want to note that there's some court details in the early chapters of Daniel, and and they appear more Persian than Babylonian.
Classic.
Where
Well,
did
no,
you stop
not really.
reading in here?
Oh, I do have that.
All right.
Yeah,
Here.
yeah, that's chapter 5, beginning of chapter 5.
Okay.
Chapter 5. King Belshazzar made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords and drank wine in front of the 1,000. I can't, why is this so difficult? Belshazzar, when he tasted the wine, commanded that the vessels of gold and of silver that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken out of the temple in Jerusalem be brought, that the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them.
So, with the final 2 stories of Daniel, the scene changes, and we find ourselves in the presence of 2 new kings, Belshazzar and Darius. Chapter 5 opens somewhat abruptly, and probably with the purpose of inviting a comparison between Belshazzar and Nebuchadnezzar. Chapter 3 had also made an abrupt introduction, 3:1, King Nebuchadnezzar made, with 5:1, King Belshazzar made. Certainly, the contents of verses 2 through 4 invite such comparison. Nebuchadnezzar had taken the temple vessels from Jerusalem, but he had recognized their sacred character, placing them in his own temple in Babylon. Belshazzar, on the other hand, does the unthinkable. He brings these vessels out for use in a bout of drinking. So,
He's the fun one.
yeah.
Then they brought in the golden vessels that had been taken out of the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them.
Also, does yours note that Nebuchadnezzar is his father?
Yes.
Yes. So this is an instance of scrambling or perhaps schematization.
Yeah, because in the intro we were talking about Nabonidus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Belshazzar was the son of Nabonidus.
Yeah.
He actually was never king, only regent during his father's 10-year absence from the court. Nabonidus, not Belshazzar, was the last Babylonian king. In fact, the 2 were not descendants of Nebuchadnezzar. After the death of Nebuchadnezzar's son-in-law, who had succeeded him, Nabonidus assumed the throne in a palace coup.
Yeah, it says that predecessor is also a possible translation.
Yeah, well, I would hope so, because otherwise it's just...
Wrong.
Yeah.
They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Immediately, and this is the part I want to talk about, immediately the fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, opposite the lampstand.
So I want to note one thing that Alter notes, that there is a small irony in their worshiping gods of gold and silver as they drink from the sacred vessels fashioned from gold and silver. The catalog of materials from which idols are made then proceeds in descending order of value.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So this finger...
Yes. So there are only 2 places where in the Bible where anyone is said to write with their finger. Now, I think this is God that's doing this.
Lecoq appositely compares the finger of God that's responsible for the plagues, Exodus 8:15, or that writes the tablets of the law, Exodus 31:18. But the finger is not visible on those occasions.
Yeah.
The failure to identify the writer is a deliberate artistic device.
What?
The reader is placed in the position of the king, who knows neither where the hand came from nor what the writing says.
Yeah, like I would think that this is it's certainly going to be divine, the writing here. But what I was going to note here is that in the Bible, there are only 2 places where someone is said to write with their finger, specifically with their finger. Here, and Jesus writing on the ground with his finger in the Pericope Adulterae.
Yo,
So
this is just Jesus showing up for the first time. Holy cow!
Which was the
connection-
later edition too, right?
Yeah, that definitely was. So the significance in that it's to show the divine like it's to link him to this divine hand. So it is very theologically significant.
Mm. And
That
all
Jesus
of
was
the
writing with his
commentaries do note how spooky it would be if you're sitting there and there's just suddenly this ghostly hand.
Right, and I'm thinking like, where's
Holy
this?
shit, somebody knows how to cast Mage Hand?
Like, is it like that, or is it like coming out of the ground, or is it like coming out of the wall and then kind of maybe it's like at a corner and they're going from one wall to the other. I don't know. Anyways. So yeah, this hand. And the king saw the hand as it wrote. Then the king's color changed, and his thoughts alarmed him. His limbs gave way, and his knees knocked together. Oh, yeah, he's shaken with fear. He's trembling.
So Alter translates this as the cords of his loins went slack and his knees knocked together. And he notes that the loins are imagined in biblical usage as the seat of strength. The physical realization of the king's dismay is unusual and virtually satiric.
Yeah, a little bit. It does seem very animated.
Yeah.
It's like the clacking. Like if a skeleton is cold or something, or like if you're cold, like you hear the teeth thing, but it's like really loud and over exaggerated. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Hermenia comments, the sudden transformation of the king from arrogant luxury to physical dissolution has a comic effect. Daniel also experiences an extreme reaction to his visions, especially in 10:8, but it is never as vividly described as that of Belshazzar. For the change of expression, compare that of Nebuchadnezzar in anger in 3:19. And there are analogous descriptions of panic that are found in other books. Isaiah, Ezekiel, Psalms, not
Just everywhere.
yeah.
The king called loudly to bring in the enchanters, the Chaldeans, and the astrologers. The king declared to the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and shows me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom.
So this would be like a huge boon.
Well, yeah, it would be. Also,
and it also parallels the earlier story with Nebuchadnezzar's dream, where I'm assuming that they're going to have all these interpreters come in and they're going to be like, oh, no, we can't figure it out. And then Daniel's going to be like, yeah, I know what it says.
That's probably what's going to happen. But, of course, we'll find out when we come to it. We'll find out when we come to it. And, at this point, can't you just make something up? Like, if you're one of these enchanters,
Sure.
you could just make something up.
Yeah, it appears to say give the purple and gold and benefits to me.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. So anyways, he's promising all this great stuff for whoever can interpret this. Whoever can interpret this. Then all the king's wise men came in, but they could not read the writing or make known to the king the interpretation. Then King man, this is actually difficult. Belshazzar was greatly alarmed, and his color changed, and his lords were perplexed. Okay, so he's like, you can't, and then he just got really scared again.
So it would be unlikely that all of these wise people would not be able to read the scripts of the region.
Sure.
So this is presumably some kind of mystical script that can't be read normally.
Yeah. The queen, because of the words of the king and his lords, came into the banqueting hall, and the queen declared, "O king, live forever. Let not your thoughts alarm you or your color change. There is a man in your kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods."
So 2 things to note. 1, may the king live forever. the same blessing that Bathsheba pronounces to the aged and decrepit David. It turns into an irony here because he dies that night.
Right.
And since it seems improbable that the queen would know about Daniel while the king would not, this is in all likelihood the queen mother. In the false genealogy of the story, she is Nebuchadnezzar's wife and Belshazzar's mother, who would have known firsthand of Daniel's wisdom through the previous episodes.
That would make sense. In the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar, your father the king, made him chief of the magicians, enchanters, Chaldeans, and astrologers, because an excellent spirit, knowledge, and understanding to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve problems were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called.
Okay, so
and
the
he will show the
ability,
interpretation.
the ability to interpret dreams forms a link to chapter 2 and 4, but was probably Daniel's best known characteristic. Resolution of riddles and problems is precisely the skill called for in this situation. Similar ability was attributed to Ahikar, but the problem in Daniel is different in that it has a supernatural origin and is resolved not so much by human ingenuity as by divine favor.
Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king answered and said to Daniel, "You are that Daniel, one of the exiles of Judah, whom the king my father brought from Judah. I have heard of you, and that the spirit of the gods is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men, the enchanters, have been brought in before me to read this writing and make known to me its interpretation, but they could not show the interpretation of the matter. But I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve problems." You know, if he was set up as like the boss, he was chief of the magicians, enchanters, and all those other guys, why would he be like not? Did he retire, or did he get fired? Perhaps
Maybe
Your
Belshazzar.
first pick instead of your last pick.
right.
Maybe Belshazzar's new at this.
Maybe. But it still seems like if he knows of all the other ones, why wouldn't he know about their chief? I guess their boss.
You would wonder. Now, there's something else here that is not followed through in that position. In that translation, where they repeatedly say that Daniel can untie knotty matters.
So just complicated things.
Yeah, and that occurs in verse 12 and also in verse 16. I have heard of you that you can interpret meanings and untie knotty matters. And the same idiom, Mishari Kitrin, that was used for the slackening of the cords of the king's loins in verse 6 is now used antithetically to express not weakness but strength in unraveling mysteries. So there's a bit of wordplay there that doesn't carry through in the ESV.
Interesting. But I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around your neck and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, "Let your gifts be for yourself and give your rewards to another. Nevertheless, I will read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation." Good guy, Daniel.
Yeah.
"O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar your father kingship and greatness and glory and majesty. And because of the greatness that he gave him, all peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he killed, and whom he would, he kept alive. Whom he would, he raised up, and whom he would, he humbled."
So These phrases and the ones that follow are typically attached to God in Psalms and elsewhere. It sounds as though the king were exercising godlike power. In the event, his successor to the throne will prove powerless before God.
Right. But when his heart was lifted up and his spirit was hardened so that he dealt proudly, he was brought down from his kingly throne and his glory was taken from him. Now that is sounding a lot more like Isaiah 14, right?
Yeah.
He was driven from among the children of mankind, and his mind was made like that of a beast, and his dwelling was the wild donkeys. He was fed grass like an ox, and the body was wet with the dew of heaven until he knew that the Most High God rules the kingdom of mankind and sets over it whom he will. So it seems like the interpretation here is he went mad. Thought he was an ox, obviously, and that was until he was like as an ox, having the mind of an ox, until this ox figured out that that God was the Most High.
Yeah.
Now that's a fairly smart ox, I would say.
It took 7 years, not really.
And you, his son, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, though you knew all this. But you have lifted up yourself against the Lord of heaven, and the vessels of his house have been brought in before you. And you and your lords, your wives, and your concubines have drunk wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or know. But the God in whose hand is your breath and whose are all your ways you have not honored. So, this is the classic, like, these things can't see, they can't hear, they can't move, they're just idols. And then we got that a whole bunch. Pretty much in any polemic against idolatry, that's like the main criticism.
And the characterization, who do not see and do not hear and do not know, is a near quotation of Psalm 115, 5 through 6, where they're describing the inert idols.
Yeah.
When they talk about him being taken down from his throne and his glory being removed from him, historically that would be associated with Nabonidus, not to Nebuchadnezzar.
Classic. And I also like how often they're saying that Nebuchadnezzar is this guy's dad. I love how often it is. Like, yeah, that's that might be the proper translation and all, but it's just funny how, like, we know that it's wrong, and they keep saying it. That's just funny to me. All right. Then from his presence the hand was sent, and this writing was inscribed. So anyway, this is the writing that was inscribed: Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin.
So Mene, this is a recognizable Aramaic verb that means to count or to number. But it has been widely recognized since the 19th century that the three words point to a prophecy that is not mainly focused on Belshazzar's personal fate. The three words are the names of the three ancient coins. The mina, a valuable coin worth 60 shekels. The shekel, tekal, is the Aramaic equivalent to the Hebrew term, sh in Hebrew converting to t in Aramaic. And the paras, which is the half shekel, the verbal root, is evident in Daniel's interpretation, means to break apart. In Rabbinic Hebrew, this verbal stem is used for breaking bread.
Okay. So yeah, this makes great sense then. This is all wordplay. This is the interpretation of the matter. Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and Daniel was clothed with purple. A chain of gold was put around his neck, and a proclamation was made about him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the Chaldean, was killed, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
The ancient Greek historians do report that Babylonia was overwhelmed by a surprise attack. In any case, the defeated king was Nabonidus.
Classic. But that is, of course, the end of chapter 5. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, share it around. Let's get some more people in here because, we have some cool readings, some good commentary today, I think.
Yeah.
And it would be great to experience this with more people.
But do you hear something?
I do.
I hear
something.
Something is being heard.
Ooh. You better not go to the bathroom again.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Wow, that was amazing.
What incredible!
So thank you for that, Jesus. Very, very well.
My mind is blown.
Very much appreciated. Glad you dropped by. And looks like you did not take Reuben this time. You're still here. That how does
I'm
it
here.
feel to be rejected?
It's like that, I guess.
All right. So let's hop into chapter 6. Now, of course, this suffers from many of the same issues with the Greek text and the Masoretic text. Happens all throughout, I guess. So Daniel 6 is parallel to chapter 3 in theme and structure, and also has important parallels with the deuterocanonical story of Bel and the serpent. As in chapters 4 and 5, the Old Greek is significantly different from the Masoretic text, although the degree of differences is less in this case.
Well, this is 28 verses, so actually the shortest chapter of the day. So let's hop into it. Chapter 6. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was first, and the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage.
Yeah, so there's no evidence for the existence of these offices. A number of passages refer to 7 counselors of the king. So Esther 1:14, Ezra 7:14. The idea that there were 3 may have arisen by inference from Daniel's promotion to the rank of triumvir at the end of chapter 5. There is, in any case, a prediction for the number 3 in stories of this sort. Compare the 3 young men in chapter 3 and the 3 pages in the 3 pages in First Ezra 3.
So, Darius was one of the characters that is contemporary to Ezra, right? At least according to
I say so, yeah.
First Ezra.
Yeah.
So that would make Daniel a contemporary to Ezra, and would also suggest that the exile is about to end, right? Because
Sure. Yeah.
exile ends when Ezra's like, okay, let's go back. And so there's these princes and presidents. Then this...
Yeah, I had 3 ministers.
Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. That would
Wow.
be nice. It's like the this is like the Joseph story all
You're
over
in charge
again.
now,
Yeah, a little
Joseph.
bit.
Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Wow, that's high praise.
That is definitely high praise. It's like he's the perfect person. This Daniel, like I may be the king, but I want you to be the king.
Man, you're so good at being king. You should be king.
You're amazing. And then these other guys are like, oh, I want to be king. I don't want that guy to be king. Let's try to find something wrong with him. And then they try to find something wrong with him. And they're like, oh, fuck, this perfect motherfucker.
So why don't they want him to be a king?
I don't know.
Jolly.
I don't know.
They're real jealous.
Yep. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God.
Ah, okay.
Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said thus unto him,
Oh, so hold
King
on.
Darius,
But
live
before-
forever.
Okay, so before we get into the continuation here, so unless we find it in his religious practice, as noted above, there is reason to suspect that this verse is redactional. There is no clear evidence that the Jewish Torah, the law of his God, was ever grounds for an accusation before the Maccabean period. Moreover, the law that is so it would have made sense at the time that it was written that this would have been, an issue, but at the time that it's set, not so much. Moreover, the law that is enacted forbidding requests made of anyone except the king does not necessarily involve a conflict with Jewish law. The situation is quite different from that in Daniel 3, where the youths are commanded to worship an idol. The decree would certainly disrupt the normal practice of Jewish religion, but did not specifically discriminate against it, as it would equally disrupt the cult of any other god. There is no question here of a persecution or suppression of Jewish religion, only of a stratagem by which a pious courtier can be entrapped.
So I wanted to note here some of the language used.
Okay.
That when they gather together here for this, according to Eerdmans, the Aramaic verb RGSH in verse 6 means to assemble, to conspire together, to be in a rage or uproar, and captures well the picture of an angry mob converging in commotion on the king with a view to subverting their rival.
Yeah, I see that as another possible translation, rage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions.
So it seems like the interpretation here should be of like a permanent decree, like one that it looks like from the, I guess, the connotation of the way that it's translated. Like you had firm decree, altar has resolved. The notion that that irrevocable royal edicts could be initiated by government bureaucrats in the Persian Empire is historically quite unlikely.
All right, there's some details on the den of lions in here.
Yeah, we're getting into the den of lions.
So I'm going to read this off, that the den of lions is a pit underneath the floor with a small opening capable of being covered with a stone. The stone covering here is laid over the opening, and the king and the nobles place their seals on it, i.e. make a mark with their rings upon some soft substance, probably clay, which has been placed around the stone in order to prevent anyone from tampering with it, since any movement of the stone after this sealing would break this seal, and would be obvious to the observer. So you can get this image of this stone here with these seals, and like it covers this pit that has lions in it.
Yeah.
You break the seal, then someone who's on the stone will fall in the pit, is what I'm super guessing at easily here.
Well, they probably move the stone to the side
Okay, yeah.
throw him in the pit. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not.
Yeah, so altereth not, just does not change. So the Old Greek simply asks that he confirm the decree and not change it, and later adjures him not to change it by the beliefs of the Medes and Persians. The Masoretic text is supported, however, by Esther 1:19 and especially 8:8. Quote, an edict written in the name of the king and sealed with the king's ring cannot be revoked. A passage from Diodorus Siculus is often cited in support of this alleged custom. After Darius III passed the sentence of death on Nabonidus, immediately he repented and blamed himself as having greatly erred, but it was not possible to undo what was done by royal authority. Against this, Herodotus reports the verdict of a royal judge that the king of the Persians might do whatever he pleased, and it was an easy matter to provide for exceptional cases by an escape clause. Two factors may have contributed to the belief that Persian laws were immutable. One is the obvious insistence that no subordinate officer could change what was decreed by the king and marked by his seal. The other is that the laws were to be preserved, in some cases by public inscription, so that they should not pass away. In the latter case, the issue is duration rather than irreversibility. The manner in which the king is entrapped in Daniel 6, in any case, requires a degree of gullibility on the part of the king that is historically implausible, but not inappropriate to the genre.
Wherefore, King Darius signs the writing and the decree.
Also, the combination Media and Persia would be anachronistic if a Median king preceded the Persian. Jerome observes, quote, it is perfectly evident that there was only one kingdom of the Medes and Persians, both under the rule of Darius and Cyrus.
All right. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he did aforetime. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god, or a man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Then answered they and said before the king, that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him.
Yeah, so the goodwill of the king is in marked contrast to the attitude of Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 3. He gives Daniel up only because of the alleged immutability of the law. In Bel and the Serpent, the king also acts under compulsion and is even accused of becoming a Jew.
Sounds like what we're going to read on Friday.
Sounds like what we're going to read on Friday. The portrayal of Darius may be influenced by the recollection of good relations between the Jews and the Persians. In any case, yeah, because they love the Persians. They didn't want to reproduce with them, though.
Right.
They didn't want to do that. Don't get it twisted. But they were like, hey, yeah, this guy's pretty cool. We live with you, separate but equal. That's great.
Yeah.
In any case, Darius cannot be taken to symbolize Antiochus Epiphanes.
All right. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king establisheth may be changed. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thy God, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. You know, the law only said that he had to be cast into the den of lions, right?
Yes.
So he could have just like thrown a rope down with him and been like, yeah, just climb on up.
Yeah, easily.
Yep.
Could have fed the lions well that day.
Yeah. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. So this is that bit with the signs put in place so that they can't move the stone. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angel, and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me. For as much as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceeding glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives.
Oh.
And the lions had the mastery of them, and brake all their bones in pieces, or ever they came at the bottom of the den.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
That is very intense.
Yeah.
And it's the end of Daniel, I think.
No.
No.
Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. Yeah, Daniel has 12 chapters, Chris.
Oh, my bad.
And the book after it has 14 chapters, but they're much shorter, usually.
It looks like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot shorter. Wow.
Then King Darius wrote unto all the people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble in fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius, and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. And that is the end of the readings for today.
Yeah, there's not really much more to say on the end there. Although, honestly, that story of Daniel in the lion's den is kind of disappointing. You know, you hear so much about it. You see so much art.
Yeah, you know, it kind of has a parallel with, who was it? Samson, right? With the lion.
Yeah. I mean,
but
I also
whereas-
find
not the same at all.
that a lot of the memorable parts of the Bible are quite short, actually.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Tower of Babel, very short.
Yeah. This one was exceedingly short. Not only was it short, it was kind of dull. It was just like this guy's thrown in. He's like, "No, I'm fine. God's got my back." And then they're like, "Wow, God does have your back." And then they threw in the people that accused them.
And the lions were hungry again.
and their family as well.
And their family.
That was not justified. In fact, the first one wasn't. I wouldn't even say that was justified, but at least that would make sense. This one, their families, that one does not make sense.
But also, like, there was a legal justification for throwing Daniel in the pit.
Oh yeah, that's true.
There was no legal justification for throwing the people who accused him or their families in the pit.
The king decreed that.
As far as we know.
Yeah, that's
also,
wow.
like, he put out this other decree that says that people should respect the God of Daniel, but since the established canon there is that the word of the king should not be altered, it's still the case that if anyone were to worship Yahweh during that time, they would still be thrown back into the pit of the lions.
Right, if you're assuming that it can't be altered, yeah.
Yeah. So
In terms of laws, yeah.
very odd. Very odd piece.
But either way, we covered some good stuff today, I think.
Yeah,
we
and
covered some
we'll-
interesting things.
And we'll cover some good stuff on Friday when we go over the additions to Daniel.
Yeah, that should be fun. So if you guys enjoyed the stream, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, share it around. The likes really do help us, by the way, because the more engagement we get, the more we pop up in suggested feeds. So any engagement is great. So, that's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and if you want to buy some merchandise, we have Buzzy Bee t-shirts.
We do have Buzzy Bee t-shirts on our Teespring. And I'm getting a new one made right now, obviously for Landon.
Very well.
And if you want to actually win one, you can become a patron.
And you'll have a chance.
Yeah, you can have a chance of winning one. Yep.
Random t-shirt giveaway.
Yeah, we do that. First Sunday of every month.
Yeah, you can also be on this show.
You could be on the show, and you get access to all the video scripts as well. So those tomes of information, and that one's just $1 a month. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, we're just giving these things away in exchange for money.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. If you want to get us something that'll help us on the show, you can check out our Amazon wish list where we've got tons of books sitting around in there. So
Yeah.
buy us books.
And they will be used on the show, or they'll be used as sources in other videos.
Or if we can't find anything to write about with the books, then they won't be used. But
They'll probably be used.
we'll
Most books will be
appreciate
used.
them.
Shouldn't be on the
anyway.
list, basically. Then,
Most books will be used.
Yeah.
The vast majority, actually, or they will all eventually be used.
Yep.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you for the $5 again.
donations. Why did Christian flat earthers like Jubilees or Enoch? Well,
there's some good reasons.
yeah, because
The
in
one
the book
in-
of Enoch, they explain the cosmology,
Yeah.
which includes a flat Earth
It
with
does.
pillars, which has Sheol underneath it, and it
It's
also
like this weird, like the sky is like weirdly rotating around it.
yeah,
like
and
it-
there's like a series of windows
Yeah.
through which the sun and the moon.
Yeah,
Travel.
storehouses and gates and stuff hold them while they're not here.
Yeah.
And otherwise, they're under the earth, they say. So
Yeah, and then the far off in a distant area is like at the ends of the heavens, I think. I think that was the phrase that they used, was like the prisons for the angels.
right.
Yeah, and well, they're in Sheol. They're in a specific subsection.
No,
of
there was
Sheol.
also a prison for them in heaven, in the heavens, in the sky.
Yeah.
Well, the ones
I remember them being chained up.
the ones who were chained up are put into a void that is in part of Sheol.
I remember that being at the ends of the ends of the heavens, I think.
You can go read the book
Oh,
again.
Okay.
Watch us
Um,
read the book again.
Yeah.
And Moro, I'm not sure about Jubilees. Jubilees is just like a retelling of
Genesis.
Genesis
And
and
part
part,
of
of
Exodus.
Exodus.
Yeah.
Although I would state that it is quite different in some ways because it's a more modern interpretation of those stories, and they have their own, I guess, biases specifically towards marriage and stuff thrown in there. I don't know how that fits in with Flat Earth, but
And I mean, I know that they tried to make the patriarchs look as good as possible.
Mhm.
But I don't really remember that much cosmological stuff in
There
there.
was some.
There was a little bit. There was more angelology.
Sure. Yeah.
And it did seem flat earthy, actually. So if anything, there's a tone to it, and maybe someone could pick a cherry out of there.
There was definitely a lot of angelology.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was kind of neat that the interpretation was like, well, the reason we do these things here is because the angels have been doing it for a while.
Yeah, but it just goes to show that these people were really stupid.
Yes.
Yep. They all believe in flat Earth. Come on.
See,
man.
back then, maybe it was okay. But like, I mean, yeah, at this point,
Come on, guys.
yeah, come on.
Bezos is in space. You think he's seeing the bottom of the flat Earth right now?
NASA CGI.
Yeah, fucking ridiculous.
That's some good editing.
Yep. It only looks curved because of the kind of lens.
Right. And when it's not the lens, it's still somehow the lens.
It's NASA CGI.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy stuff, man.
Right. Because the Earth is flat.
Apparently, yeah.
And the United Nations knows because the UN logo has a flat Earth.
Right.
it.
And let's see what else. Perspective. It's all perspective.
Yeah, if you sent up a conventional camera that just had like a Polaroid or whatever, you'd totally see it. You couldn't CGI from that.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, see, they've been in airplanes and they haven't seen the curvature of the Earth.
Right. Man,
Well,
flat
thanks for
earthers.
joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We also have Facebook and Twitter. It's free to follow us on those platforms. I know Nightbot hasn't really been posting anything, but all links to everything are in the description. So,
Yeah, go
How's that?
check it out.
and on that note,
We'll
we will
see you on Friday.
and then on Sunday.
And then on
We're
Friday.
covering a lot of things.
And then on
It's really
Sunday. And then on Friday.
on the
and
weekend.